There's something sitting in most people's kitchens right now that deserves far more attention than it gets. It's not dramatic, it's not expensive, it doesn't come from a specialty survival store or require any kind of preparation manual to understand. It's the kind of item you walk past every single week at the grocery store without giving it a second thought. And that's precisely the point. The things that matter most during difficult stretches of life are rarely the ones that look important. They're the quiet, familiar, ordinary items that quietly become extraordinary the moment supply chains tighten and store shelves start showing gaps. Here's something worth sitting with for a moment. Over the past few years, the average household has been spending meaningfully more on groceries each year, not because anyone is buying differently, but because the same basket of familiar items costs more than it used to. Analysts who track these patterns suggest that the steepest price increases may not be behind us. They may still be ahead. That's not a reason to panic. Panic doesn't help anyone. But it is a reason to take a few calm, deliberate steps toward building a pantry that gives your household a genuine cushion, one that makes the unpredictable feel a little more manageable. This list was built with that goal in mind. 30 items, each one selected for a specific, practical reason. Shelf life, nutritional value, versatility in the kitchen, or some combination of all three. Some of these will feel immediately obvious. A handful will genuinely surprise you. And as you work through the list toward number 1, you'll understand exactly why each item earned its place. Let's begin. 30 canned coconut milk. When fresh dairy becomes unavailable during a disruption, the absence is more significant than most people anticipate. It's not just about taste, it's about fat content, the satisfying richness of a meal that feels genuinely complete, and the simple normalcy of a familiar morning cup of coffee that tastes like itself. Canned coconut milk addresses all of that. It adds creaminess to soups, depth to stews, and genuine richness to dishes that would otherwise feel stripped down. Stirred into coffee, it creates something that resembles a normal morning far more than black coffee from a paper filter ever could. The functional case is equally strong. Coconut milk is rich in medium-chain fatty acids, which convert into energy efficiently and support lasting satiety. When meals are becoming smaller and less frequent, feeling genuinely full for longer directly affects cognitive clarity, physical endurance, and the quality of decisions being made under pressure. Entry 9. Canned black beans, pre-seasoned. Plain canned beans are a solid emergency staple, genuinely valuable, no question. But pre-seasoned black beans are a meaningfully different thing, and the distinction matters more than it might appear at first glance. When you're eating shelf-stable food across many consecutive days, flavor isn't a luxury. Flavor is a survival mechanism in a real and practical sense. It affects willingness to eat, the volume actually consumed, and ultimately how well the body is absorbing the calories and nutrients it depends on. Pre-seasoned black beans arrive with the work already done. Rich, bold flavor without requiring a full spice cabinet. Eat them straight, combine them with rice for a nutritionally complete meal. Fold them into soups and stews. They're among the most versatile items in the pantry, and the most immediately satisfying. 28. Fishing shelf-stable tofu. The initial skepticism here is completely understandable. It's worth looking past it. Shelf-stable tofu, sealed in vacuum packaging, can remain usable for months without refrigeration. When conventional protein sources are running low, that becomes considerably more valuable than it sounds at this particular moment. Tofu's core strength is adaptability. It absorbs whatever flavors it's cooked with, meaning that whatever seasonings or broths remain available can completely transform how it presents in a meal. In a limited emergency diet where variety is difficult to maintain, every source of protein that also brings flexibility to the kitchen earns its place. This one earns it convincingly. Dehydrated vegetables. Most thoughtful emergency food plans eventually run into a predictable wall. Canned vegetables are reliable and genuinely nutritious, but they're heavy. They take up significant space, and eventually they run out. When they do, fresh produce has long since disappeared, and the options narrow sharply. Dehydrated vegetables exist to solve exactly that problem. Lightweight, compact, shelf-stable for extended periods, and a fraction of the storage footprint of traditional cans. With water, they rehydrate quickly and integrate into soups, stews, and rice dishes with minimal effort. Some varieties can be eaten dry directly from the package. The strategic value here is planning for the second phase, the phase when the first wave of supplies is already exhausted and the pantry still needs to deliver. Building for that phase while it's still theoretical is the right time to do it. This content takes real time and care to put together. If it's adding value to your thinking, a like and a subscribe would mean the world. And drop a comment below with which item surprised you most. 26. Peanut butter powder. Regular peanut butter already belongs in every serious emergency pantry. We'll return to exactly why in considerable detail when we reach number 1. But the powdered version solves a specific problem that regular peanut butter simply can't address: greater storage efficiency, a longer shelf life, the same core nutritional profile in a form that allows you to store considerably more without sacrificing shelf space. Reconstituted into a spread in under a minute, blended into oatmeal for a protein-rich breakfast, incorporated into soups for richness and body. It extends protein and healthy fat coverage deep into the second and third month of a disruption, precisely the period when many other options have already been exhausted and the pantry needs every advantage it has. 25. TAS's canned chicken. When fresh meat disappears from store shelves, and it's typically among the first categories to go during any significant disruption, the protein gap it leaves behind is one that grains and plant-based sources can only partially fill. Canned chicken is shelf-stable, ready to use immediately, and adaptable to nearly any meal. Stir it into soups and the caloric density of the dish increases substantially. Combine it with rice and canned tomatoes for a complete filling meal. Eat it directly from the can when cooking genuinely isn't realistic. Animal proteins provide a more complete amino acid profile than plant-based sources alone, and that completeness directly supports muscle maintenance and physical recovery during periods of sustained stress. Canned chicken keeps the body genuinely operational, not just technically fed, but actually resourced to function well. 24. Canned sardines in olive oil. Most people walk past sardines without a second thought. That habit is worth reconsidering. Canned sardines packed in quality olive oil are among the most nutritionally dense items it's possible to store. Protein, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, and vitamin D in every tin. Choosing sardines in good olive oil effectively doubles the value. Nutrients from the fish and healthy fats from the oil simultaneously in a single can. Eat them straight from the tin, spread them on crackers, or fold them into pasta for an instant, genuinely satisfying meal. The shelf life stretches for years without meaningful nutritional loss. For the space they take up and the price they cost, nothing competes. 23. Far's canned salmon. Canned tuna gets the majority of attention in conversations about shelf-stable protein. Canned salmon deserves equal consideration and arguably more. High-quality canned salmon is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which directly support brain function and the body's capacity to regulate inflammation and manage stress responses. In a prolonged, difficult period, mental clarity is often the resource that gets quietly depleted alongside physical energy. The ability to make sound decisions, manage a household under exhaustion, and think clearly through complex situations depends heavily on the nutrients that support that capacity. Canned salmon provides targeted nutritional support for exactly that challenge. It's not just about calories, it's about keeping the mind sharp when everything around it is working against that goal. 22. Stan of canned tuna. Tuna earns its place on this list in its own right, separate from the conversation about salmon. It's one of the most affordable sources of complete protein available in shelf-stable form, and its versatility in the kitchen is almost unmatched among canned proteins. Mix it into a simple salad with whatever canned vegetables are available. Stir it into pasta. Combine it with rice and a splash of olive oil for a quick, filling meal. Eat it straight when nothing more involved is practical. Look for tuna packed in olive oil rather than water when possible. The oil adds healthy fats and makes the fish considerably more satisfying and calorie-dense. Stock both varieties to give your pantry the most flexibility. 21. Seen canned corned beef. When discussions about calorie-dense, shelf-stable protein arise, canned corned beef sits in a category that very few products can match, and the reason goes beyond simple calorie counting. Survival nutrition isn't about calories alone, it's about macronutrient balance. Diets built primarily around carbohydrates gradually leave people weaker and mentally slower. The effects are subtle at first and easy to miss in the early days, but they accumulate into something genuinely damaging across weeks of sustained dietary imbalance. canned corned beef provides the concentrated protein and fat that counterbalances that decline directly. Eat it straight from the can, heat it in a pan, combine it with rice or root vegetables for a complete and calorie-dense meal. When energy demands are high and options are limited, this one makes a measurable physical difference. We're over halfway through, and there's still some genuinely surprising territory ahead. If you're finding this useful, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. One testing canned bone broth. Picture week 4 of living entirely from pantry supplies. Rice, lentils, canned vegetables, dried beans. Adequate calories on paper, without question. But something is missing. A kind of deep nourishment that the body registers as an absence even when it can't precisely identify what it needs. That gap is what bone broth fills. Rich in collagen, amino acids, and essential minerals, bone broth actively supports joint health, bone density, and immune function, precisely the systems that absorb the hardest impact during prolonged nutritional restriction. Drink it warm on its own as a restorative. Use it as the base for soups. Simmer lentils and grains in it instead of plain water to quietly add nutrition to every single meal without any additional effort. This is one of those items that works in the background, supporting the body in ways that only become obvious when it's absent. 19 canned sauerkraut. Here's a value that most people miss with this particular item. Sauerkraut isn't a condiment. It's a fermented food that carries a genuine functional health benefit that becomes increasingly important as the diet narrows and stress levels remain elevated. The fermentation process produces probiotics, beneficial bacteria that directly support gut health and, by extension, immune function. When stress is persistent, sleep is irregular, and the diet has been reduced to shelf-stable basics, digestive health tends to deteriorate. That deterioration creates a cascade of consequences: weakened immunity, reduced nutrient absorption, and increasing vulnerability to illness at exactly the moment when illness is hardest to manage. Sauerkraut actively supports the body against that decline. It also delivers meaningful quantities of vitamin C and K. For something that costs almost nothing and takes up almost no space, its value is quietly remarkable. 18 Feist white vinegar. This looks like a basic kitchen staple. In practice, it functions more like an emergency multi-tool, and understanding why changes how you think about it. A single large bottle of white vinegar can do 3 meaningfully different things during an extended difficult period. First, food preservation. Its high acidity slows spoilage and extends the usable life of produce when refrigeration becomes unreliable. Second, sanitation. Diluted with water, it functions as a practical surface disinfectant, and illness prevention matters as much as calorie intake in any prolonged emergency. Third, basic first aid, minor wound cleaning, insect bite relief, and natural deodorization when access to clean bathing water is limited. And here's what makes white vinegar genuinely extraordinary on this list. It doesn't expire. A bottle stored properly today will be just as effective a decade from now, minimal cost, almost no storage footprint, and an almost unjustifiable return on that small investment. 17 powdered whole milk. When fresh dairy becomes unavailable, the absence is more significant than most people anticipate. Calcium, protein, vitamin D, and essential dietary fat, all of it becomes considerably harder to source without dairy in the picture. Powdered whole milk addresses every part of that gap in a single product. Modern processing has dramatically improved both the taste and the texture, and properly reconstituted, the result is genuinely closer to fresh milk than most people expect before they try it. The shelf life is the defining advantage. Stored correctly, powdered whole milk remains fully usable for years without refrigeration. It consistently ranks among the items people most wish they had stored in greater quantity after a disruption has already begun. Stock more than you think you'll need. 16 ghee, no refrigeration required. A shelf life that extends months to years beyond regular butter. High heat tolerance that makes it ideal for cooking with minimal equipment. And a rich, nutty warmth that transforms simple ingredients into something genuinely worth eating. When meals have become repetitive and the joy has been slowly draining out of mealtimes, ghee makes a real and noticeable difference. It turns plain rice into something worth sitting down for. It transforms canned vegetables into a dish that feels intentional rather than improvised. Ghee combines practical long-term storage, solid nutritional density in the form of healthy fats and fat-soluble vitamins, and genuine meaningful flavor in a single jar. It earns its place on practical grounds and on human grounds simultaneously. 15. Lard. This one will challenge some assumptions, and that's completely expected, but the case for it is straightforward. When butter has disappeared and cooking oils are unavailable or financially out of reach, lard is one of the most calorie-dense, shelf-stable fats available. The body depends on dietary fat for sustained energy production, temperature regulation, hormone function, and the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Without adequate fat in the diet, physical endurance deteriorates and decision-making suffers in ways that are gradual but cumulative. What gives lard an additional advantage on this list is its dual-purpose potential. In severely constrained situations, it can contribute to basic soap production or be used to protect and condition tools and materials. It doesn't look impressive on a shelf, but when the moment comes that it's genuinely needed, it carries a disproportionate load. 14. Dry lentils. Here is a number worth pausing on. Properly stored dry lentils can maintain their full nutritional quality for up to 30 years, not months, 30 years. Without refrigeration, without specialized equipment, without anything beyond sealed containers and reasonable storage conditions, lentils also cook significantly faster than virtually any other dried legume, which matters a great deal when fuel is limited. They're rich in protein, fiber, iron, and B vitamins. They absorb flavors readily, meaning whatever seasonings or broth are available can genuinely transform them into something satisfying and varied. Relying exclusively on rice as the primary emergency staple leaves significant gaps in protein, fiber, and essential micronutrients. Lentils address all of it in a single, compact, affordable package. This is one of the highest value items on this entire list for the amount of space it takes up and the money it costs. We're in the final stretch now, and these last items are the ones that matter most. If this list has been genuinely useful to you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps more than you might realize. 113. Canned cheese. This is probably the most counterintuitive item on the entire list. Bear with it. Picture week 5 of a supply disruption. Fresh dairy has been completely unavailable for some time. Familiar flavors have been disappearing from every meal, one by one. Morale has been quietly eroding for weeks in ways that are difficult to name but impossible to ignore. Canned cheese is shelf-stable, protein-dense, and rich in fat. But its most important function in a difficult period isn't purely nutritional, it's the experience of a familiar, comforting flavor that returns something recognizable to meals that have become monotonous. Stir it into pasta, and a basic pantry meal becomes something people genuinely want to eat. Pour it over rice and beans, and the dish feels complete in a way that matters. Comfort in an emergency is a real and practical thing. Canned cheese genuinely delivers it. 12. Salt. Salt is not simply a seasoning, it's a physiological necessity, one of the oldest and most fundamental survival tools in human history. The body depends on sodium for fluid balance, nerve signal transmission, and muscle contraction. Without adequate salt, dehydration can occur even when water intake is plentiful. Muscle cramps, cognitive decline, and persistent fatigue are the early warning signs, and in a prolonged emergency, any of those can create cascading problems. Beyond its role in keeping the body functional, salt is indispensable for food preservation, curing meats, preserving fish, fermenting vegetables. In any scenario where refrigeration is unavailable or unreliable, salt is what keeps food from becoming a problem rather than a resource. It never expires. The iodized variety adds thyroid-supporting iodine as an additional benefit. Store it in bulk. The investment is minimal. The value is extraordinary. 11. Freeze-dried coffee. This might seem like an outlier on a list centered on nutrition and practical survival. It isn't. Cognitive performance under sustained stress is a primary concern during any extended difficult period. The decisions that need to be made about rationing, about family health, about priorities and timing all depend on mental clarity that fatigue, stress, and disrupted sleep will steadily erode. Caffeine supports alertness and concentration at exactly those moments when both are most needed. High-quality, freeze-dried coffee, properly sealed, maintains both flavor and effectiveness for years. The preparation requires nothing more than hot water. There's also something worth acknowledging about the ritual of a warm cup of coffee in the morning, even in genuinely difficult circumstances. It provides a point of psychological anchoring, a signal that something familiar is still intact, that has real functional value for maintaining resilience. And caffeine moderately suppresses appetite, which can help stretch food supplies slightly further during careful rationing. 10. Honey. Here is a fact that sounds as though it belongs in a history book, because it does. Archaeologists excavating ancient Egyptian tombs have discovered sealed jars of honey more than 3,000 years old that were still perfectly edible. Honey's extraordinarily low moisture content and natural acidity create an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. Properly sealed, it does not expire. This is not a figure of speech. For thousands of years, honey has also served as a natural antimicrobial agent, used to soothe sore throats, support minor wound care, and aid digestion. In situations where medical supplies are limited, those properties shift from merely convenient to genuinely important. If crystallization occurs, a little gentle warmth brings it fully back. When morale is fragile and food fatigue has been building across weeks, a small measure of sweetness carries real psychological weight. Store raw, minimally processed honey. Very few items on this list offer the same combination of indefinite shelf life, functional health benefits, and emotional value in a single product. 9. White rice. White rice tends to be taken for granted, which means it tends to be undervalued in emergency planning conversations. That's worth correcting. Long-grain white rice, stored in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, can maintain its quality for 25 to 30 years. It's one of the most calorie-dense and affordable staples available anywhere. A single 5-pound bag stores compactly, prepares with minimal water and heat, and serves as a foundation that makes almost everything else on this list more useful. Rice absorbs flavors, pairs well with proteins, legumes, vegetables, and sauces, and provides the energy baseline that the body needs to function across a long day. It is not a complete diet on its own, which is exactly why so many other items on this list exist, but as the backbone of a practical emergency pantry, almost nothing competes with it on a per-dollar, per-calorie basis. 8. The canned butter. When refrigeration fails, fats become one of the most critical and simultaneously hardest to replace parts of a functional diet. The body needs fat for energy metabolism, cellular repair, temperature regulation, and the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Without adequate dietary fat, physical endurance deteriorates and cognitive function follows. Canned butter doesn't require refrigeration before opening and has a shelf life measured in years. Spread on crackers, real butter transforms something plain and utilitarian into something genuinely satisfying. Stirred into rice or mashed into root vegetables, it adds the richness and familiar flavor that helps people feel grounded when the circumstances around them are genuinely uncertain. A meal that feels like a real meal rather than a ration maintains morale in ways that directly affect physical performance and the quality of thinking under pressure. Canned butter delivers that in a form that stores practically and lasts reliably. A large bottle of quality olive oil belongs in every serious emergency pantry, and the case for it is multifaceted. From a pure nutrition standpoint, olive oil is one of the healthiest fat sources available. Rich in monounsaturated fats that actively support cardiovascular health and reduce inflammation, both of which matter considerably during periods of sustained physical and psychological stress. The calorie density is high, which is an asset rather than a liability when meals are becoming smaller. Practically, olive oil makes nearly every item on this list more palatable and more complete. Drizzled over canned fish, stirred into beans, used to sauté dehydrated vegetables, it elevates whatever it touches. A quality extra virgin variety stored in a cool and dark place will maintain its character for 1 to 2 years. Few items on this list do more across more situations than a well-stocked supply of olive oil. 6. Apple cider vinegar. Where white vinegar offers broad utility, apple cider vinegar brings additional nutritional and health properties that make it worth stocking alongside its counterpart. Raw apple cider vinegar with the mother contains naturally occurring probiotics and has been used traditionally to support digestion and immune function. When the diet has narrowed and gut health is under strain from both dietary restriction and elevated stress, having tools that actively support the digestive system matters. Practically, it functions similarly to white vinegar as a food preservative, a surface cleaner, and a general-purpose household acid. It adds genuine depth and brightness to simple dishes in a way that plain vinegar doesn't quite replicate. And like white vinegar, it stores indefinitely without losing its essential properties. 2 bottles of vinegar, 1 white, 1 apple cider, provide extraordinary range at almost no cost. 5 multivitamins. This is perhaps the most practical addition to any emergency pantry, and it requires almost no space at all. The honest reality is that even a thoughtfully assembled emergency food supply will create gaps. The diet will narrow, certain nutrients will be harder to source consistently than others, and the body will feel the effects of those gaps over time, in energy levels, immune function, cognitive clarity, and physical recovery. A high-quality multivitamin provides an insurance policy against the most common and consequential of those gaps. It doesn't replace real food. Nothing on this list should be interpreted as doing that, but it fills in the spaces that even the best pantry will inevitably leave. Stock a year's supply. The cost is modest. The protection it offers is meaningful. We're almost at the end, and these final 4 items are the heart of the entire list. Please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who would genuinely benefit from it. Your support makes this kind of content possible. 4 Bikings, wants, and matches and a lighter. This is the one item on the list that isn't food, and it belongs here anyway. Every item on this list that requires cooking becomes significantly less useful if there's no reliable way to generate heat. A supply of strike-anywhere matches stored in a waterproof container, combined with a quality lighter and a small backup lighter, provides the foundation that makes everything else function. Waterproof matches specifically are worth seeking out. Regular matches degrade quickly in humid conditions, and a box of useless matches at a critical moment is worse than no matches at all because it creates a false sense of security during the planning phase. Store several boxes in separate locations. Keep a lighter in the pantry itself next to the food it helps prepare. This is a $5 investment that makes the entire rest of this list fully operational. 3 Nonsta canned beans, variety. Dry lentils appear earlier on this list, and they earn their place convincingly. But a robust selection of canned beans, black, kidney, chickpea, navy, pinto, provides something that dry legumes in their raw form cannot: immediate availability without any cooking time at all. Open the can, eat, or combine with rice, or stir into a soup that's already hot. No soaking, no extended simmering, no significant fuel expenditure. Beans are a nutritional powerhouse, high in protein, extraordinarily rich in fiber, loaded with iron, magnesium, potassium, and B vitamins. They provide the kind of sustained, slow-release energy that keeps the body and the mind functional across a full day. Combined with rice, they form a nutritionally complete protein that meets the body's amino acid requirements without any animal protein required. Store a meaningful variety. Different varieties provide different flavors and textures, which plays a direct role in preventing the food fatigue discussed earlier in this list. Door honey. Honey was addressed at number 10 in the context of its indefinite shelf life and antimicrobial properties. It appears here again because its full value in the context of a complete emergency pantry deserves deeper consideration. In prolonged difficult periods, sweetness performs a function that goes beyond simple pleasure. It provides a psychological anchor, a tangible reminder that not everything has been stripped away, that something familiar and genuinely enjoyable still exists within reach. This is not a small thing. It is, in fact, a measurable contributor to the kind of mental resilience that determines how well a person functions across weeks of difficulty. Honey also serves as a natural energy source during physically demanding days, easy to digest, rapidly available to the muscles, and calorie-dense in a small volume. Stirred into oatmeal, dissolved into warm tea, spread alongside peanut butter on a cracker, it improves every situation it enters. Stock raw honey in quantities that feel slightly larger than you think you'll need. 1. Peanut butter. Not an exotic supplement, not something that requires research or a premium price, not something unfamiliar or demanding. Plain, familiar peanut butter, and the reason it earns the #1 position on this entire list is both simple and comprehensive. Peanut butter does everything right, without compromise, across every dimension that matters. 2 tablespoons contain close to 200 calories. A full jar delivers a dense, reliable calorie source combined with meaningful protein, healthy fats, magnesium, vitamin E, and niacin. All of that requires no refrigeration, no cooking, no preparation of any kind. Open the jar and eat.